Hello everyone. If you want to see how I make this skirt with a flap that can either be asymmetrical or just regular length, stay tuned. First thing I'm doing is drawing my skirt's pattern. Apologies for speeding through this, but I am trying to fit a lot of footage into this video. As you can see, I have 3 pattern pieces, a front, a back, and a flap piece. I will be posting a step-by-step video for the pattern very soon. I am using the front pattern piece to cut out of the main fabric, placing the pattern on a fold. Next, I will be cutting the back piece, which is on 2 separate pieces, so it doesn't have to be on a fold. I will also be cutting the flap piece similarly to the back, which is on 2 separate pieces of fabric. I then use the main front and back piece to cut out the lining fabric in almost exactly the same way, except that the lining is about 1 inch shorter at the bottom than the main fabric. I could also have cut out one of the flap pieces from the lining fabric if I wanted to, but I decided against it because I didn't really like working with the lining fabric. Again, just to show you that the lining is shorter than the main fabric. You'll see why I did that very soon. To sew the side seam, I need to arrange my pieces in the right order. I am opening up my front piece with the right sides facing up, as you can see. Then I'm going to arrange the back 2 pieces onto the front piece with the right sides facing down. The opening is where the zip goes. Putting this aside, I'm going to take the flap pieces. Watch how I flip the pieces to make the wrong sides face each other. Then I'm going to place the flap pieces, like so, in between the main front and the 2 back pieces. I pin the sides to hold them in place. I am pinning the lining fabric in exactly the same way, minus the flap. I am then going to sew along the side seams with a 1 inch seam allowance. For a skirt with a longer flap, I would sew down the side seam with the flap all the way down to the bottom of the flap. Next, I'm going to sew all of the darts, both on the lining and the main fabric. After that, I am going to attempt to close the flaps. To do this, I am going to open up the flap pieces. Then I am going to wrap the rest of the entire fabric between the flaps like so. Now I'm just pinning around where I am going to sew, and I am going to sew like so. I am going to leave the top open. After sewing, I'm going to untuck the fabric from between the flaps through the opening at the top. For a short flap like the one in this video, I had to take out 1 inch from the bottom side seam, just to tuck and arrange the flap better. After doing that, I sewed the side seam back. Everything is now nice and tucked. Now I am going to open the main skirt with the right sides facing up. Then I am going to open up the lining and place it in a similar fashion with the right sides facing down on top of the main fabric. Next, I am lining up the bottom of the fabric with the bottom of the lining. Then I'm going to pin and sew along the bottom with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now that that's done, I am flipping the fabric to show the right sides. Then I'm going to align the top of the main fabric with the top of the lining fabric with the wrong sides facing each other. The hemline was formed because the lining fabric was shorter. So I thought the flap blended a little too much with the main skirt. I then decided to add a bias to the flap edge. For the waistband, I cut out a very long piece of the fabric, which I folded and ironed into 2 like this. I measured out 1 inch from the fold, and then I cut down the length. I went ahead to fold the edge of the waist piece internally like this. I folded it by about 1/4 of an inch, and then I ironed it. I sew a running stitch on the waistline with about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of seam allowance. I am going to align the waistband and the top of the skirt like so. Then I am going to sew along the groove of the waistband. I make sure to leave a little bit of the waistband fabric at both sides of the skirt. Next, I am going to close the zipper opening with my seam allowance, which is 2 inches. I'm starting with a running stitch on the main fabric, down for about 8 inches. Then I'm switching to a regular stitch all the way down to the bottom of the skirt. Then I will continue for about 6 inches into the lining fabric. This is what it looks like at this stage. Next, I'm going to flip it over to the inside. Then I'm going to iron open the zipper seam. Using a seam ripper, I am going to open the seam to the 8-inch mark. Basically, I am taking out the running stitch that I put in. I am doing this so that I can hand stitch the zipper. Everything I do from this point will be hand stitched. I believe that hand stitching makes things nice and neat in the end. After pinning the zipper in place, I am going to hand stitch it. Next, I'm taking the open fold of the waistband and stitching it to the lining piece. Again, I'm leaving the ends open for now. I decided to use a hook and eye to finish off the waistband. So I am cutting off the excess waistband fabric. Then I am tucking the ends into the open ends of the waist, like so. After that, I pin and hand stitch it. I also hand stitch the open ends of the waist. I am tidying up the frayed edges of the lining by rolling it and stitching it with a basic running stitch. And this is the almost final look. And I forgot a pin inside. Now we are done. These are the final two looks using the pattern style. And both of them can be made using the exact same steps in the video.